Whoa.
And it's just the green button on the mics. Oh, I see you have your energy drink.
Yeah.
I remember. So welcome back. We are continuing our symposium on January 6th versus democracy, causes and consequences of divisive politics and civic unrest. We are joined today by two very important people, and I'm very grateful for both of you for being here with us today and for your service and for literally saving our democracy on January 6th. We have with us Officer Harry Dunn. Harry A. Dunn, he's a private first class with the Capitol Police. He joined the Capitol Police in 2008 and since 2011 has served at the officer rank of as private first class. Since 2009, he's been assigned to a USCP first responder unit responsible for maintaining perimeter security around the exterior of the US Capitol, creating a safe environment within the Capitol complex for members of Congress, congressional staff and employees, as well as visitors to the Capitol. We also have with us Washington, D.C. police officer Daniel Hodges. Thank you so much for joining us, Officer Hodges, as well. So I wanted to start by asking you both. You both have worked as officers for a long time now in Washington, D.C. How did what occurred on January 6, 2021? We've already talked about what we're not sure exactly what we call it. Was it a riot? Was it insurrection? But how did what happened on January 6th differ from other First Amendment protests or actions that you've seen and helped provide security for over the years?
I worked in the civil servants unit, so riot control for most of 2020, working the Black Lives Matter protests. And I do not equivocate what happened on January 6th with those at all. However, there are absolutely comparisons to be made. They're very different. And when there was violence associated with the Black Lives Matter protests and riots, it was very not directed at any one particular thing. They just wanted to hurt. And sometimes just random buildings. It was looting. They shot fireworks at random houses. It wasn't directed at any particular government office or anything like that. January 6th was very targeted, highly specific, and had particular immediate political goals with their violence. So those are the big things. The 2020 Black Lives Matter riots were more anarchy than a goal of violence with a political goal in mind.
I think it's safe to say that I'll start my 15th year in November. I think to say in those years I've been a part of over 1,000 First Amendment protests, ranging from the objection of Supreme Court justices to banning infant circumcision and everything in between. There have been week-long Bible reading marathons, and everybody has the opportunity to express whatever they want freely, openly, without attacking the government. I remember the gentleman said he wasn't sure what it was. It was an insurrection, a violent uprising against a government, period. I guess kids say full stop, right? Is that the full stop? That's the tweet, right? That's what it was. So I don't care what your views are, what your beliefs are, you have the right to do it, but you don't have the right to storm a building because you're upset that things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. So I'll use a specific example. I worked the let's call it the protest of Judge Kavanaugh, and there were 300-400 people that stormed the steps of the Capitol. They literally stormed it by walking up them, holding hands and singing hymns, and sat down and asked to be arrested. So you can't compare that to what happened on January 6th. So that's the main difference that I'll equate to the two. So.
What would each of you like the public to know about January 6th, 2021, both the attacks and the insurrection that we don't really see in mainstream media narratives?
It's hard to say because it's, an ongoing story. We're still finding out more every day. The committee isn't done yet. So I follow the news just like everybody else. I was there, obviously I'm a primary source on the matter, but I'm not privy to all the higher level workings. And I think that's the most important thing. Obviously the Justice Department's been doing a great job of arresting people, combing through the tens of thousands of hours of video footage and finding people. They're still making arrests. Like a few months ago, they somewhere out deep in the country, they found one of my friend's helmets from that day just in someone's house, and they arrested him. And they sent him a picture of the helmet. He's like, "Is this your helmet?" And he's like, "Yeah." I guess he lost it. So yeah, these people, they take home trophies and they think that they get away with it, but the FBI has a long memory. So but as for what I want people to remember, it's still talked about, but as others have touched on, maybe not enough, even though we talk about it a lot, is just how people at the highest levels of our government tried to secure it for themselves in a non-democratic fashion. It's not just these low-level players like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and all them, although they were instrumental. It's the higher ups that I'm really worried about, because so far they haven't faced any repercussions, so they're just gonna do it again until they get it right.
What do I want people to know from January 6th that the mainstream media isn't really talking about? It was as bad as it looked, and then some. One thing that stands out in Officer Hodges, if anybody pays attention to the footage, he's the guy who was crushed in the door, screaming down there when he was being crushed in the door. That entrance from the west side of the Capitol, where all those officers were fighting in that little tunnel area, and it was just pure pandemonium and chaos. Those officers there did not know that the building had been breached from the other sides. So they were fighting like democracy depended on them, and they fought with everything they had. So I just want to speak to the bravery of those men and women that day, because they didn't know that the building had been breached. There were already people in the building. They thought that if they lost that, it was over. And they kept on fighting, not knowing there were people 100 feet behind them that had already breached from other locations. Another thing, this has been the narrative by some, doubters and apologists for what happened that day, that it was a tour, it was friendly, people just got carried away. I do believe there are people in there that got caught up in the moment. I believe it. There are people that did not go there with the intention of attacking police, but they did. And, you know, first degree premeditated, second degree not so much. So you still committed a crime, and you need to be held accountable and responsible. And also the narrative that we let them in. I've had a lot of training in 14 years of service. I talked a man out of a tree who was up there in his underwear, who was scared to go home because he spent too much money on his credit card and his wife was going to have a fit. I've had training on how to deal with that. I've never had insurrection training. So a lot of times we were out there just figuring it out as we went. I was scared, we were overwhelmed. The narrative and the idea that we let them in, I don't agree with that. Officers retreated to save themselves. They decided not to engage 50 people when it was just them. I'm not gonna put my hands on one person and get attacked by 49 others. So there's been footage of people that stand to the side. I work with a lot of these people and I trust them with my life. So to say that they let them in and to help them succeed, I don't buy that one bit. You know, I'm an optimistic person too. I look on the brighter side. So maybe there were. So maybe I am just being, you know, too giving credit to them. Maybe, I don't know. But I do know that the men and women that day fought heroically and bravely. Yeah, that's it.
Just to add on to that, the official number of officers injured is something like 140, but I guarantee you everyone there who was there in those first few hours was hurt. That's just the ones who didn't go to work the next day, like myself. Everyone who was there who fought got hurt, but a lot of them came back the next day because they could and they needed to. So, you know, under 140 is an extremely conservative estimate.
To talk about that, going back the next day, people ask, you know, hey, so when did you go back to work? About 4 hours later. I went home. I poured a bourbon. I got some ibuprofen, and I took my ibuprofen with my bourbon in the shower, rinsed off all that pepper spray and bear spray, WD-40 and wasp killer spray that we got sprayed with, and went back to work the next day because it's my job. And a lot of people just did their job that day. That's what they did. So when people say, you know, the heroics, you got heroes, and thank you. We just did our job, you know, so.
I want to ask a follow-up. Thank you for mentioning, Officer Hodges, the conservative number of those who might have been harmed. And that's also just the physical harm. I wonder, you know, if you're willing, and you can absolutely take a pass on this question, but I know Harry is a big Officer Dunn is a big advocate for mental health, so that's why I'm going to ask this. You know, what are we seeing as the longer term impacts on the forces, both the Capitol Police, the Washington D.C. police, and what are the resources available for those who experienced the trauma of that day?
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm a huge proponent of mental health, emotional health, wellness. We take care of our bodies, but we need to put just as much, if not more, focus on taking care of our minds, our brains, our hearts. You know, that's the stuff that makes your physical body go. It's tough. And actually, Danny and I were just talking about it right before we started. You know, the tours are starting to open back up at the Capitol. People are starting to come around. And I saw a group of 120 school kids. It wasn't the close-up people, but they are everywhere. It wasn't. I know exactly what you're talking about. Those close-up, my goodness, they are everywhere, and they're oblivious to everything. And a whole nother program. But it was a group from Illinois, and about 2/3 of the group had on MAGA hats, and they're 8th graders, 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders. Some of the parents did, chaperones. I feel like I met every 8th grader in the world that's ever existed. I feel like every 8th grader has come up to the Capitol for a field trip, and I feel like I've met every single 8th grader. But it was triggering. I saw those hats, and it was just like, you mother, you know, like, are you kidding me? And like, so I'll tell this story. But one of my coworkers, the guy, he had dropped his hat, the MAGA. It was a bucket hat. The coworker just threw it in the trash. The guy was like, "Hey, that's my hat." Oh, sorry, and he threw it like halfway across. And it sounds funny, right? It sounds funny, but that can lead to something unresolved issues. First time he's throwing the hat, next time he's throwing a punch in the guy's face because he said something. So it's very important, because just subtle things like that. I see that red hat and I'm just, ugh, because all of those people had them on that day. All them people, you can believe what you want. That's fine. You can vote for whoever you want. You support whoever you want. But that now to me represents violence and not believing in democracy. You know, I see the term patriot. Sorry, I know I got off topic or whatever. I could go on a rant, but you see the term, somebody's like, I'm a patriot. I automatically think that you're a racist Trump supporter when I see somebody has patriot, when I should be calling myself a patriot. I don't even want to be associated with that term. I don't even want to be associated with it. But to talk about the mental health, sorry. It's very difficult. Police officers are very out of sight, out of mind. I'm not talking about it, it'll go away. Type A, we got to be strong all the time. Those are our personalities. That's what we have to do. We always have to be all right. So a lot of police officers don't deal with mental health issues in a healthy way. 4 people, Daniel, myself, Sergeant Goodell, and Officer Fanone, came out publicly and talked about it. 4 people. And we've been begging our coworkers to talk about what they went through that day. 4 of us, you know. There's a lot of people that there, a lot of brave officers, for whatever reason, aren't speaking out. That's okay. But I encourage them to always seek mental health guidance, counseling, even if it's just a support group, talking amongst yourselves. It's better than keeping it all in. It doesn't go away with time. Time doesn't heal all wounds. It does not. So I'll just pass it on to you.
Mental health is important. I am pro mental health. You asked what resources we have. MPD has a psychiatrist on staff. It's called the MPEAP. I forget what it stands for, but that's what it is. You can talk to them anytime. You can schedule appointments, and it's all provided by by DC. So and I've heard nothing but good things about her. She's great. Personally, I've been very fortunate regarding physically and mentally after my work on the 6th. So, but I know not everyone has been that fortunate. I don't want to put names out there without getting permission from my colleagues, but I know I had a sergeant who took a huge blow to the head early on in the fight. I know he suffered from some lost time that day, and he only recently came back to full duty. I've heard that he got deep into alcohol and had a really rough time for most of the year, but he's doing a lot better, and I'm sure there are others like that. But I don't hear a lot of them talk about it, and I don't press the issue because I don't know why they don't want to talk about it or why they don't. Maybe it's because it's a non-event to them. Maybe it's just another riot. Maybe it's because it affected them deeply and they don't want to bring it up. And it's weird for me to bring it up with them because I've gotten all this, attention, and it feels very self-aggrandizing to be like, hey, well, why aren't you talking about this? So I just let them deal with it at their own pace.
So there is a bipartisan House Select Committee to investigate the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. What do you think is the role of this investigation in public accountability for what happened? And I believe, Officer Dunn, you have testified already as well. And so if you want to share from your perspective of being in the hearings, especially, and then Officer Hodges, I'm sorry, have you testified also?
Yes, we both of us and Sergeant Gannell and Officer Fanone testified at the same time.
Okay.
In the first hearing.
So January 6th Select Committee, right? They're going to save us. They're going to save the world. Come on, January 6th Committee, bring it home, right? My expectations of them. First of all, in order to form expectations, you have to know what they're capable of doing. They can't arrest anybody. They can't bring charges against anybody. They can't do that. The Justice Department has to do that. So you have to temper your expectations with what the January 6th Committee can do. They have the ability to subpoena people and find out information and create a report. That's what they're going to do. They're going to tell the whole story. They're going to tell the truth. And hopefully let the American people make their decisions, make up their minds based on this story that is told. An accurate representation of what happened. And that's what they're going to do. A lot of times the Republican Party has called it a political witch hunt and, all that pushback stuff. They had an opportunity to have a non-partisan 50-50 committee split down the middle in the beginning that they had agreed to. The ranking member, which is the Republican leader of that committee, and the chairman, who is the Party in Power's lead of the committee, they had agreed a deal in the committee. He said I'm losing. He said there's no debate anymore. Right? He said there's no yeah, there actually was this time. There was debate because in the early days of January 6th, like, this is really bad. We got to find out what happened. And they had reached an agreement and said, this is what we're going to do. And the leaders of both chambers, the Senate and the House, did not want that to happen, although some of their members in the Republican Party did. So there were votes for it, bipartisan, but the power of the leaders in each chamber obviously was too much to overcome for the nonpartisan committee to be formed. As we're finding out all this information, Daniel said it earlier, we still don't know what we don't know. We didn't know to even think that Jenny Thomas was involved. We didn't even know to think that 2 months ago. Wait, what? What else is missing, from this picture? So we don't even know what questions to ask because we don't know. But it's all coming to light for me. Some of these leaders voted against it because they were probably involved. So that's why people are voting against it. That's why it's so important to find out the truth about what happened. I'm very matter of fact. I don't care about anybody's opinion. I care about them, but when it comes down to it, it's all about the facts. And I think that's what the January 6th committee is after. Just what happened, period. And that was clear, they're partisan. People on the committee, it's no secret that they don't like Donald Trump. It's no secret. But they said that they're turning in this January 6th investigation into a political witch hunt. But January 6th happened because of politics. It was a political statement. They tried to overturn an election. So you can't get the politics out of January 6th because it happened because of a political issue. So to say that they're making it political, it happened because of politics. So There's no taking it out of it.
Yeah, it's like Harry said, it's a fact-finding mission. Calling the witch hunt is funny because, I mean, the witch was there. Big bright orange witch flying over the Capitol, and it's more like a witch documentary.
Yeah, we'll go. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Just gathering all the witch information that we can, and then putting the witch information out to the public and telling the Justice Department, hey, we should probably do something about this witch. Yeah, it's a political process. It's a bunch of politicians getting together, and they have subpoena power. They can force people to tell the truth theoretically. But at the end of the day, they can't take any substantive action on their own.
It's actually working though. Sorry, but it can force people to talk because remember they were getting no cooperation from Ivanka, and Don Jr., and now Rudy Giuliani's testifying. All these people like, wait a minute, how much do y'all know? Maybe I should start saving my own ass here, right? So it's like, it could be very compelling.
Yeah,
you know. So
no, absolutely, absolutely. They're doing a great job. It's slow, but it's not just the Congress people on the committee and that's it. There's a ton of staff and lawyers working behind the scenes, just figuring out who to ask what questions to, and turning the screws, so to speak, so we get more and more people when they come forward, be like, on second thought, maybe I will testify. And I can tell you, Harry knows more about it because he's in the Capitol. I'm just a schmo on the street. But I can tell you that from my experience, they're very fair. Nobody tells you what to say. And you see all kinds of stuff online about how I've seen people saying, "Oh, I saw Officer Hodges leaving Nancy Pelosi's house, and she was telling him what to say," and it was all he's just an Antifa FBI plant lizard person. No, I brought up my body-worn camera footage and I hit play, and I watched a few minutes and I paused it and I wrote down what happened. And I hit play again, and I did that until I reached the end. That's how I found my statement. So
I saw actually somebody say yesterday that those officers' testimonies look rehearsed. Yeah, you idiot! You rehearsed testimony. You rehearsed testimony. If you ever testified, you rehearsed testimony. Like, what is wrong with that? Yeah, you idiot! I was like, my lawyer was like, don't stop it. I was like, no, she's got to know she's stupid. You rehearse testimony. That's what you do. And people, well, the Democrats have paid you off. I wish, because I'm broke.
Yeah.
Like,
where
do we get paid off?
I can promise you, George Soros has not cut me a check.
I have not got a dime. Like,
if anyone knows how I can get in touch with him,
I still got to pay for coffee. Like, I don't even get complimentary coffee. Like, paid off? Are you kidding me?
I get half off. I get half off at Chipotle, but it's not going to pay the mortgage. No, the committee's doing a great job. It's political, but that's the way it is. When I lost a lot of optimism after the Mueller report, but it's what we got. We just got to hope that they're able to do the best they can, and we have a Justice Department who's willing to act on their information.
So what does accountability for January 6, 2021 look like for both of you?
That's a great question. And I should have an answer, right? Because that's all I want is accountability. Somebody like, here's accountability. That's accountability. All right, I guess it is accountability. So we should know what the hell accountability looks like for all of us. Maybe accountability is different. Maybe accountability for some people is jail. Maybe some people it's a civil suit. Maybe it's just public acknowledgement. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I want because I try to be very, like I said, I'm very matter of fact. I try to be very rational. But somebody got to fucking pay. Sorry. Somebody has to pay for what happened that day. And it's not going to be just keep on passing the buck. Well, it was him, it was them. Well, we got caught up. It ain't no, well, this is what happened and you did it. Full stop, right? That's it. It's it's so disingenuous when they get up there and they say, well, you know, January 6th was bad, but let's keep on working on, you know, the southern border.
Let's work on the Capitol border.
The southern border of the Capitol? You mean the south side of the Capitol? Is that what you're referring to? Or the north side? I don't know what accountability looks like, you know, in a rational sense, because I want all of them to go to jail. That's not me being a rational thinker at the moment. That's just me, my feelings, my emotions. I don't know. Thankfully, there are individuals in other positions of the government whose job is to determine what accountability looks like. And I'll defer to them. And then you can ask me if I'm satisfied with that when it happens, and I'll probably say no.
Yeah, accountability. There's no one answer for everybody, because it depends on what you did and how you leveraged your position, whether it was as, you know, the president of the United States or as a leader of a terrorist group. I want people to suffer the consequences of the law. And I'm a police officer, so I'm not unfamiliar with how it's determined the length of sentencing, but it is very frustrating seeing these people get, 18 minutes in jail for their role in attacking the Capitol, because yes, you can't charge people with crimes they didn't commit, and so many of them were just marched in and paraded around and then left. But it's because of those 9,000 or 10,000 people who did that the couple hundred who were the most violent were able to do what they did. If it was just those couple of hundred, we could have handled them no problem. Absolutely no problem. It's the fact that their completely overwhelming numbers is what allowed them success in their endeavors. And I don't have all the answers. It's not an easy fix. How do you weigh that in sentencing? But I think it's a failure of the Justice Department right now, to where the people who enabled the most violent people to pave the way for them, that they're only getting 10 days of community service, whatever they're getting.
One guy got 10 days in jail to be served on Fridays and Saturdays.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
What the? I mean, that's not accountability. That's not. Like, that was it. I'll do this shit again. On the weekends, I get to go to jail, get away from my wife, go to jail for the weekend. All right. That's not accountability. Actually, just sitting here thinking and just talking, accountability to me looks like, yo, I'll never do this shit again. That's what accountability looks like to me. Something, whatever it takes. It could be very, abstract, whatever. This will never happen again. That's what you need to, that's the message you need to send. We will not tolerate this, period. That's what accountability looks like to me.
Thank you both so much. We want to open up to questions from those in the room. I'll let you.
Everybody at
Sir?
once, right?
I guess this is a question mostly for Officer Dunn, because we work for Capitol Police, as you know. I mean, your mission is to keep the campus safe, to keep 541 members safe. You guys did, and with Metropolitan Bureau. It's an amazing job that day. And everybody on the campus was grateful to you. But ever since that day, there's a significant amount of people who have revised their thoughts about what happened, how bad it was. I'm just curious what that does for the morale of the Capitol Police when the people who swore to protect now some minimize what you guys did, even though at the time you were literally saving their lives.
That's a great point, because I get the question like, how do you still do it? How do you still go to work? How do you protect these people who literally just said, oh, it was just a tour, or you know what, let's move on? How do you do it? You have to figure out something in yourself to make the job, the mission bigger than one individual or two individuals or half of it. Democracy exists because we have people that are able to do that, not care about a party rhetoric or whatever. I think a lot of times we're in this situation now because people have elevated a person over the seat, right? Seat of government is what it's important. That seat is the people. That seat isn't just the person is just a figurehead. They're just in that seat. So you have sometimes members of Congress that represent over 1 million people, depending on the district that they represent. Those are the people that you're representing. That's what I'm protecting, those 1 million people, not just that one individual. So I'm protecting a seat of government. So that's how democracy works. You don't get your way every single time. It's not 541 people that I agree with. Even if it's something about that happened to me, I can be angry and be like, "Oh, you're full of shit." In my mind, I won't say it out loud. You know, hey, I just did, right? But you have to think of something bigger than yourself, and I think that's why so many police officers are able to still do their job. Because just, you know what? Forget you. You're an idiot. I'm gonna go do my job. So,
As a parallel to that, I served for 6 years in the Virginia National Guard. I was a mortarman. And I think it's in like Band of Brothers or something that there's a good quote that correlates to this, where there's, you're going to have crappy officers, bad leaders, but you still got to salute them. And the thing is, you salute the rank, not the officer. So that's, you got to respect the position, but not necessarily the person.
but yeah, that just goes back to like, that's a great idea. That's a great quote. I like to keep saying this because it's so true how people have elevated a person over a position. Donald Trump has been elevated to greater than presidency. Congressmen and women have been elevated greater to just congressman, woman, senator. They put them as, they are that seat, not the people are the seat, And I think that's where we stop holding people accountable. Like literally before that dude got elected, he was like, yo, I will go in Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody, and everybody's going to still be my friend and support me. He said that, and he proved it true, So holding people, they work for us. People say, I work for you. I pay your taxes. I mean, my tax pay your salary. You hear that all the time, but it's so true though. But we got to hold people accountable at the ballot box and people vote. So that's
Just pass them a dime and say, here you go, here's a refund.
yeah.
Ma'am?
I remember that, I think a couple days after President-elect Biden had a lot of attention because he said something of the sort that if Black Lives Matter protesters were there, they would be Do you believe that statement was appropriate or fair?
Oh, that pisses me off so much. Like, I know I joke, but in the days after the 6th, that viral video had been gone around, and I was talking to someone online, and they said they were talking about how the police just let them in, and if it was Black people, God, they would just all shot them, and there had been just violence everywhere. And I said, no, that's me. We fought tooth and nail to keep them out, and it didn't matter what color they are. I also worked the 2020 riots. We didn't shoot anyone, and stuff like that. And she said to me, that just proves that when you shoot Black people, it's because you want to. And that's like one of the most offensive things anyone's ever said to me. And just, even today, people who ostensibly support us say that, oh, if it was black people out there, they in the same breath, they'll say if it was, it's just because they were white that they were let go. And that's incredibly offensive to me, because I don't, we don't use force based on the color of someone's skin. Now I know that deployment of manpower has been different for Black Lives Matter protests, and that's way above our pay grade. You'll see pictures of tacked out FBI agents or whatever on the steps, looking intimidating. And when there's a riot going on in downtown DC, that's not up to us. That's the higher ups, and maybe they are racist depending on who they are. I don't know. But the officers on the street, overwhelmingly, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what your political affiliation is. They're just there to do their job and go home.
Again, I'm very matter of fact, right? So I don't want to use, let's take the if away, right? If that was Black Lives Matter. Well, Black Lives Matter was at the Capitol. You know what happened? Nothing. They stood there, they yelled at us, they chanted, they did not cross any bike racks, they did not assault any officers, they did not storm the Capitol. They yelled at us, they called us names, they went home. Period. It ain't no if it was it was Black Lives Matter at another time prior in 2020, specifically at the Capitol where I work, which I'm responsible for. They came up there, thousands of them. They yelled, they took knees. They had officers taking knees with them. They had officers taking knees with them. There was dialogue, there was anger, there was passion, there were curse words. There was not violence against any officers at the Capitol by Black Lives Matter. They had a trash crew with them and picked up their trash when they left. Not my opinion. It's what happened. It's what I saw. I can't speak for what Danny experienced downtown, but at the Capitol, that is what happened with Black Lives Matter. So, yeah.
There was a question
I just wondered, speaking of accountability in terms of the media, which is more where I come from, did you consider responding? Were you advised, don't respond? How do you live with being called a lizard person and far, far worse? I mean, did anybody advise you to say, to go on Fox News or to respond or?
So when an officer with MPD does any kind of media, if technically it's supposed to be sanctioned by our public information office, the PIO. And then, so the media gives the PIO contacts the officer, says, you're cleared to do this. And then, but even before that, the PIO has to go to the mayor's office and say, hey, the media wants to talk to this officer. Is that okay? And then a brief 2 to 6 months later, the mayor's office gets back to him and says, yes, you can. That's not always the case. And what that officer can do is to go to the media on their own. And as long as they're not in uniform and they make it clear that they're representing themselves and not the city of DC or MPD, then they can say what they say. Now, there could be repercussions for that when they get back to work if they say something crazy or, that casts them in a terrible light, makes it look like they're not doing their job right. They can, be held accountable for that administratively. But I've done a lot of media now since the 6th. And I'm still pretty early on in my career relatively, so I try and do it, by the book. But you can do it outside of the official channels. You just you still gotta watch what you say. And I stand by everything I say. So I'm not worried about the repercussions back at work. And speaking for myself, I can say work has been very supportive of me, as long as you speak intelligently and with candor and verve.
It's kind of like you're doing a good job. Just don't make us look bad or it's your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, go keep going. Yeah. Hey, you know what? We do not support what this guy's saying. You know, wait a minute, you just did. Like, so it could change at any minute. I have 3 lawyers, and anytime I want to say something, Harry, shut the hell up. Because I have fortunately garnered a large following and support on Twitter, social media, stuff like that. And I tell you what, those little Twitter warriors are great. You know, it's like I don't even have to say a word. They just whew. So it whatever. Just I don't pay attention to people. I will have intelligent conversations, even if we disagree. I will talk to anybody about any topic. Right before I testified in July 27, 26, I had been done a lot of media rounds prior to my testimony. Good Morning America, MSNBC, Maddow, CBS, done a lot of media prior to me testifying. The night before my testimony, Tucker Carlson went on and attacked me personally. And then I got so much hate mail, death threats. I was like, what the hell just happened? Because my phone just started going nuts. I was like, what happened? What is happening here? Like, why is all of a sudden, and Congressman Eric Swalwell reached out to me and said, yo, Tucker just attacked you, but don't worry, I got him. So I'm ready to go say something. I got it, don't worry. And, you know, so you just let people fight your battles. But that goes to the people that actually want to talk about you, not to you. Because I would love to go on Fox News and talk. They won't have me. They won't. I've been on every network.
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah.
Fox is the only, to my knowledge, the only large media organization that requested no interviews with officers.
Yeah.
We've done all kinds of interviews with every network, every local. We've had
International, BBC, you know, like whatever.
But you know, nothing from Fox. For some reason, they don't want to talk to us. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Might be happy to, but yeah, they want to talk about you, not to you. So, and that's fine. Until you want to talk to me, then it's just noise. And it took a long time to get to that point. Because if you say something about me, I'm ready to punch you in your face. What? You said what about me? Say it to my face. That's my mentality. You ain't just going to talk crazy about me. But now it's just like, whatever. But it took a while.
I was a little offended because after our testimony, I was the only one that Fox didn't pick on. I was like, what is, was I not?
This is true. This is true. After we testified that night, Laura Ingram's show gave us like Academy Awards, Fox News Academy Awards. And it was like most exaggerated performance. It was like Sergeant Gonell. And I had best political performance was me. Like we're actors or something.
Yeah, I got nothing.
You're forgettable, dude.
I need to go back out there.
You're forgettable.
I need to. I think the problem is I have 0 lawyers.
Yeah.
So
exactly, we have lawyers. So yeah. But you know, I'll talk to anybody, but now I have to clear with my lawyers. Like, Terry, shut up. You know. So I have a lawyer, by the way, to protect me from losing my job. I have to be I work for the people that I want accountability against, right? So it's a very, very fine line that I have to tiptoe. Because any one of them could say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with Officer Dunn protecting me. Any minute, you know? So that's why it's very important to just stay focused on doing my job and speaking to just the facts and not opinions about stuff.
This goes to both of you. During that time, I think mostly in regards to Black Lives Matter, there was this whole like Blue Lives Matter, Back to Blue, the blue and black flags, all of these people and fellow officers really holding strong for law enforcement. And then we saw a lot of them at this January 6th event. So how do you feel in terms of those people that are supposed to protect with you and not doing that?
it's obvious that they don't really back the blue. They enjoy antagonizing people that are politically opposite of them. And it so happened that most recently, people politically opposite of them were largely anti-law enforcement. So it's just picking sides. It became immediately apparent to me that they didn't back the blue when they were hitting us with the Thin Blue Lives Matter flag and not obeying our orders to go home. But yeah, they take sides that are convenient to them. And even if they're contradictory to, even if it creates cognitive dissonance within them, it doesn't matter. They've incredible capacity for mental gymnastics to justify whatever they do and hold whatever opinions they have, regardless of how mutually exclusive they are. And I expect nothing less from them.
It's a talking point. That's it. It's a talking point. It's a cool phrase. Back to blue, right? Everybody says that the left does not back the blue, only the right does. Actually, after paying attention to it, the left kind of does more than the right does. The right just says that they do more. The whole defund the police, maybe 2, 3 people on the left that say that, but they group that as the whole left that says that way. Actions, bills that have been actually passed out have come from the left. Sure, wanting improved policing is not supporting police. It's because I want police to be better. That's your job, to be better. Our job is to win. Our job is not be okay, satisfactory, mediocre. That's not our job. Our job is to be great and provide great service to the community, not just okay service. You know, we're not just enforcers. We are public servants. That's your job. We are public servants, and protect and serve. That's what we do. That's what our job is too. And we can go on forever about this, but I'll just try to say that the back the blue thing, it's a cool soundbite. It sounds cool, right? Oh yeah, like the Patriot thing. Ain't no damn Patriot. You know, people like, yo, Christian values, right? Those are Christian values. I am a Christian. That ain't the Christianity I want to be associated with, you know, and it's very frustrating because they use it because it just sounds good, right?
Virtue signaling, I believe, is the phrase.
Yeah. So it's just a cool slope. Yeah. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for your service. My question is about the event of January. It's likely to happen again if people are not held accountable meaningfully, because it's, you know, we have to define what accountable means. If it's not, this is not resolved the way it's supposed to be resolved, like people get really punished, the right people, you know, the likelihood for this to happen is higher. Do you feeling fear of this? How are you gonna do the next time this kind of event happen again?
Yeah, absolutely. You're correct. It's just, I'd call it a dry run, except it wasn't a dry run, it was a wet run. But if there are no consequences for this, why not try it again, right? Especially if the people who orchestrated it didn't even feel any physical effects, let alone legal ones. So yeah, they're gonna try it again. They showed flaws, and the fact that it failed just showed them the flaws in their plan. So it'll be better next time, and it'll probably be led by someone who's not a complete idiot. So its chances of successfully much higher. So yeah, I'm afraid, but it's not going to stop me from doing my job. Yeah, I'll be there every day if it happens every day until it stops.
Yes, I think that it can happen again. That's why, like I said, accountability is so important. to make sure that something like this does not happen again. And yes, I do believe it's fearful. January 6th didn't create a lot of division at all. It exposed a lot of division. The division was already there, you know. It just made it easier for people to pick sides, show what side they represented.
On the panel earlier, I remember someone saying that Trump started sowing the seeds of this when he was saying that if he didn't win, or if the election was going to be rigged way back when. But he actually started this back in 2016. He said that if either I'm going to win or Hillary rigged it. So he started planting these seeds way long ago. And yeah, it just came to fruition on 2021.
So on the day itself, at what point did you begin to get a sense that this was going to be more than just a protest?
My CDU platoon, Civil Disturbance Unit, we started at 7:30 that morning. And our original assignment was just to be high visibility on Constitution Avenue, showing that the police are here, don't do anything wrong. And obviously that worked, and everything worked out great. It started out normal. We've been, like I said, we've been working protests all of 2020. It was just another day. I expected some trouble personally because, I've been following the news and social media posts and Parler and all this nonsense. But, I didn't think it would get to where it was. It started out normally. People were going down Constitution toward the park. I personally was standing in front of the IRS. So I thought the worst part of my day was going to be listening to all these hilarious IRS jokes from all the conservatives saying, taxation stuff, you should arrest them. And then they look at me like, sir, do you need police assistance? Have a nice day. And but then they kept going, and they listened to their pep talk for their attack on the Capitol. They started going back the other way toward the Capitol. I guess the first indication that things were going to get bad was all the people in tack gear, the helmets, the radios, the vests, and all that, backpacks. It wasn't me, but one of my colleagues, some of them stopped and talked to one of my colleagues, and he looked at him and said, is this all the officers you have? And my colleague was like, oh, what? And then the guy said, do you really think you could stop us? And how do you respond to that? Like, I don't even know what he said, but eventually it's like, there's more of us, I guess.
That was before the violence.
Yeah, that was before.
This was 7, 8 in the morning.
Yeah. And that was so, these are not things you want to hear prior to a protest. And then as they went to the park, they heard their thing, they left going the opposite direction, Constitution, toward the Capitol. And we could hear over the radio our SOD commander, Special Operations Division commander, getting more and more agitated, calling for more units, saying that they're breaking through barriers, but he still hadn't called us up. So we had to stand there waiting and, just pacing back and forth till eventually he called us up. We got on our gear, got in the vans, and got down there and started the fight. So yeah, it's started at 7:30 that morning, didn't go home till about 1:30 the next morning.
So I was at the Capitol all day, and even driving in the morning, it was foreshadowing about what really was going to happen that day. It was January 6th, right? January mornings are dark, It was a gray day anyway. It was gray. It was really cold. Coming down North Capitol, 6 in the morning on my way to work, I had a roll call at 6:45. And it was just so many people out, even at 6 in the morning, which is weird because we were in the middle of a lockdown, right? So the city had been empty. Traffic is boom, you flying to work, get there in no time. It was just people walking around at 6 in the morning. The weirdest, all throughout the city. This is weird, it's crazy, whatever, crazy people. I didn't have to be up. Why would I be up at 6 in the morning? I'd be in my bed sleep. That's what normal people do if you ain't got to get up, right? Thoughts with just the foreshadowing. The crowds continue to grow in size at the Capitol. Like I said, I've been involved in over 1,000 protests, safe to say. And it was like a big pep rally, an American pep rally, right? They were saying they would do random breakouts at Pledge of Allegiance and, you know, singing the Star Spangled Banner, just randomly.
In the morning, I couldn't hear the top speakers, but I could hear I was close enough to hear the music they were playing to get them going.
Yeah.
And they were playing like Backstreet Boys and
Mhm.
Celine Dion.
It was so weird. It was he's not. It was weird.
I remember thinking to myself, I'm so glad my middle school dance DJ is still getting work.
But it was so weird because, like I said, the crowds just continued, and like they would just USA. I'm like, what are y'all? All right, man, pep rally, just keep it going, whatever. Obviously, you know, the violence started to ensue, but for me, the thing was like, yo, this is bad, like really, really, really bad. Is when we discovered the pipe bombs at the RNC, and then. And about 10 minutes later, was another one found at the DNC. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is like a coordinated attack about to happen. And sure enough was, you know, so. And we still don't know who the damn left the pipe bombs. That is one of been the most frustrating thing for me personally, because I feel like once you find those damn bombers, you can tie so many pieces together. So many, like this investigation will come to. Find those, and that's so frustrating.
Just to piggyback off that real quick, a question I hear a lot is, well, why didn't the police officers shoot? Surely they were in fear for their lives. That's what they say all the time in the news when there's a shooting. Well, I had my radio stolen, but one of the last things I heard on the radio was our EOD team, our explosive ordnance disposal, finding those pipe bombs and saying they were viable. And I didn't know how many there were. They could have been all throughout the city. It could have been just one. I don't know. So I thought, why haven't they set them off yet? I thought maybe they're waiting for us to start shooting using deadly force, and then they'd escalate as well to setting off their explosives, bringing out their weapons that they had on them. Absolutely, they had guns, they had all kinds of weapons. So that's why myself and a lot of others did not use deadly force.
I'll speak specifically why I didn't use deadly force too. I was armed with a high power rifle that day. 200 plus rounds of ammunition. And sure, I could have used deadly force. And this can go down a whole nother topic. I know we gotta wrap up on time, but the nuances of using deadly force and the argument that I was in fear for my life, right? I think that's very nuanced because one, fear is what? Fear is an emotion. And now we're making an emotional decision to use deadly force, which sometimes can, I'm not saying it's not accurate, but fear alone should not, in my opinion, and a lot of people may disagree, should not be a factor alone of using deadly force. Because I was scared all damn day, right? You're surrounded by people. They say, "Why didn't you shoot?" Well, which one? The one that pointed the gun at me? Because nobody pointed a gun at me. The one that would push me? So you shot him because he pushed you. It was just so many factors, like who do I shoot? Point to the person that I should shoot right now. And I couldn't identify one specific person that I should have shot. You couldn't do it. I couldn't. I thought matter of fact-ish, like I could not identify one person specifically that I made the shot. This isn't the military. You can't use suppressing fire. You can't just shoot rounds to get people. You can't shoot up in the sky to get people, hey, warning, you can't do that. So that's why I didn't shoot anybody.
Officer Dunn, Officer Hodges, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences. We are deeply grateful to you both for what you've been doing and for being public about this and for calling for accountability. Can I ask you one final question before we close out and go to lunch?
You just did.
One more.
2?
I know.
Yes.
I would be really bad with a genie in a bottle. What do you want to see from the public as we move forward?
I mean, the goal is for this to never happen again, right? And a lot of the earlier panel was talking about this civic education and engagement. But it has to be coupled in equal measure with critical thinking skills, because you could make the argument that all the insurrectionists were civilly engaged. They were trying to establish a new government that's pretty active civilly, I think. But they weren't thinking very critically, because they thought that they believed with all their hearts that an election was stolen with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. So I would like the public to be civilly educated and engaged in equal measure with intelligent critical thinking skills. And I'd like that to be a cultural priority. And I think if those two things are accomplished, then this will never happen again.
I just want people to care, not just about necessarily January 6th, but like everything. Like, this is our country, right? And a lot of people have the mindset that my one vote doesn't matter, my voice doesn't matter. People just need to care more. I get so frustrated when I see people like, whatever. And it just doesn't matter. Nothing matters to anybody. Like, nobody really cares about anything. It's just, whatever. Whatever. Like, you have a right to be upset about this. You have a right to request change. You have to. These things keep happening and these people keep getting elected because nobody cares. Now we're seeing movements that people are, I saw that in Utah. The Democratic, I believe, the Democrats did not nominate a candidate to run against the Republican, because they are actually coming together now and like, let's get this dude out of office, the one who's in there now. So it's important. That's a great, that's encouraging to see that actually people are working together now. And now, if that person wins, hopefully he or she realizes, I am the voice of all these people, and there can be some common ground. These debates that are supposed to happen on the floor and committees and stuff, they don't happen. They don't happen. So you'll have a floor debate and only one side shows up. And now bills pass 51-49 in the Senate. Like, that's not government. Like, it's people just don't care. And I just want to see people engaged. I don't think I could ever run for office. People say, you should run for office. I would have, my campaign manager would hate me because I would never tell you, don't vote for the other guy. I would never tell you, don't support that guy, support me. I can't say that. I would tell you, this is how he thinks, this is what I think. Make your choice. If you think that's your best choice, then vote for them.
Even if you're running against Donald Trump?
I could not say, if you like that. Care.
Mic drop. Please join me in thanking Officer Dunn and Officer Hodges.
I'm gonna, I don't know about Danny. Well, he is too. I'm command decision. We'll stick around if anybody had any questions afterwards. We'll just talk for a little bit if anybody has any other questions.
So we have lunch that's provided by the Menard Center for Democracy at Miami University of Ohio. It's right outside here, and we'll be back in the room in a little bit. Enjoy lunch and networking.